I think about that on every listing that I see, is that I'm surprised that it didn't happen, because an employee knows the business really well. There'd be no reason in most businesses that they couldn't step in and continue to at least operate it the same way. I would say the reason it doesn't happen often is because that an employee might not have the funds to do it.
So today I'm talking to Tony Dacey, who I've worked with a couple of times to purchase a couple of businesses here in Des Moines. He started off his career as in law, and then transitioned to real estate, and then transitioned to a small business owner. So we'll talk a little bit about that today, as well as a number of other things. So the first off, let's start with that one, which is, again, you started in law.
Yes.
You went to real estate. So what made you decide to basically get out of the real estate business and move into small business? What was it that attracted you? And what is it about your situation that you think is basically not unique, that you're like a lot of other people?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things specific to those different careers that I was in. But first and foremost, as you know, we moved to Iowa a couple of years ago. So a big life transition. I was wrapping up our real estate businesses in a different city and eventually looking for something new to do here. Specific to those businesses, though, both times I was self-employed and kind of flying by the seat of my pants, not so much having great systems and anything that was really simple to do. So there were a lot of moving parts in both of those careers that I was in, and I definitely wanted to do something where we're providing a simple service or selling a simple product that can be easily repeatable and that has a nice, has revenue already going, has employees already in place. So that was very important to me at that stage in life. I don't think I was a unique buyer in the sense that I was middle-aged. I was transitioning in a variety of different things in life. So
why a service business versus a manufacturing or distributing or something like that?
Sure. Service for sure. A home service made a lot of sense for Stephanie and I, my wife, because in real estate, we were constantly hiring people to deal with various things when we were buying and selling, renting out properties. We were just very used to hiring people performing home services. And frankly, I was always jealous that they were just performing the one simple task, being done, moving on, getting paid, whereas we were kind of in charge of the entire process of trying to make sure that the house was in a condition that we could sell it or rent it out or sell it for somebody else. So I very much wanted to simplify what we were doing in life. And cleaning is not easy, but it is simple.
And so when you look at a deal, because before you decided on cleaning, residential cleaning, you looked at a lot of other types of businesses as well.
I was very open. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me and you and I have evaluated a lot of businesses together as well, but tell me what are those red flags that you look for? Because as you've said to me, you spend a lot of time on BizBuySell and all these other marketplaces out there where all these listings are, and you see a lot of listings. What are the things that tell you, bam, I'm not even going to inquire about this?
Sure. And it is really tough. I mean, I'm glad that we got to the finish line and were able to buy a business, and I'm still open always, but I don't have that sense of urgency of sorting through a lot of listings and seeing all the difficultness of trying to determine if something's worth buying. A big red flag is just a lack of info. And there's always going to be some secretiveness when you're selling a business because you don't want your competitors to know. You often don't want your employees to know. But if you're going to list it online, you at least need to provide things that a buyer would right away want to know about. And a lot of times there's just not a lot of info to sort through. And so then you reach out to the broker and still you're not getting a lot of info. And then if you're not that dead set on that particular industry or whatever, you just kind of are going to stop there and move on. So that part's really frustrating. Then when you do get info, you just are really trying to make sure it matches up with what the story is that the seller is telling you, because the seller is selling for a reason. If everything was 100% perfect, they didn't have to put in any time, it was making money, it would probably not be for sale. So trying to figure out how the story adds up. And of course, the story oftentimes will add up, but it's hard to sort through that. So it's a lot of information. And if a seller and or his or her broker can present that in an easy way, then you're more likely to get a deal done.
So you've read the Clean series that I put out, and one of the things that in that is leadership, right? So when you first started looking at companies, obviously that whole process of you determining where you fit and how much time you were able to give to a company played a large part. And I know that when you bought Diamond House Cleaning Services, that was a big reason that you went with them, or you decided to acquire that company, was because of the systems and processes that they had in place that helped you minimize the amount of time that you had to spend daily, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, that is a great series. I don't just tell you that because I like it. That it really is, if you are interested in buying a business or selling, you should read that, because a lot of gold nuggets in there. The first and foremost, it doesn't matter the price of a business. It doesn't matter how much they did in sales. If you can't see yourself being the person who owns the business and does the general ownership tasks of that business, it's not going to work for you. So it was Stephanie really pushed us in the direction of, I think for sure a cleaning business would be great. When we got more info on Diamond House Cleaning, it was like, yeah, this is exactly what we can fit into our lives, the role we can play in a business. It was great. So they have a great software that we didn't have to do anything. It was in place. It has all the old records of the company. So it's just really well organized, really makes it easy to operate. Came with a virtual assistant who does a great job. So it's kind of like you're managing him, not worrying about those certain smaller tasks that we'd rather not be doing. Came with great employees, and a lot of everything that was already in place. We knew we could come in, make sure that we kept the really important things, the really important systems going in the right direction, but then just make a few tweaks. And that was a good situation for us to be in. So if it was something like, I was thinking on the ride over here, like, I'd love to own a tree service company. I love cutting down trees. That's kind of silly. Most people wouldn't want to do that, but I do. But I can't at the same time drive all over the place and do that. Stephanie wouldn't be thrilled if I climbed 50 feet high in the air every day. So I go back to, it has to be a business where you can step in, kind of work with what already's going on and be able to make some adjustments, but not totally change your life around, depending on your situation. I'm middle-aged, raising a son. It was important to us to not get involved in something where it was too much for us.
Now, you and I have talked several times about on the earnings side. And obviously in a house cleaning service, residential house cleaning service, you have subscriptions, right? People, it's recurring revenue.
Yes.
But one of the things that was highlighted, or you've highlighted a few times that we've looked at other businesses, was the fact that the pricing was not right. And so you're in a competitive industry. There are a lot of people that are doing house cleaning out there. So how important is it to, when you're looking at a business, to make sure that they're selling their services they're not selling on price, basically they're selling their service.
Yeah. In other words, is it a race to the bottom? Right. And I mean, the couple different experiences that I've had in life, my various careers, nothing changes industry to industry. There's going to be people that sell on price. I'm sure at times I did as well. But by far, the better way to operate a business is to sell on the value you provide. And our only concern when we took over Diamond House Cleaning was that when people think of us, that they think of value. I'm not worried about losing out on any business if it's at an amount that we cannot devote the time needed to provide them the best value possible. So we're only concerned about value. If I'm looking at a business that is more concerned about just making money or getting higher volume because they're offering their service or their product at a lower amount, that is not for us. That's nothing against anybody that does that. Best example would be Walmart, right? They've done okay, but that's not what Stephanie and I are interested in. So if a business is for sale and I'm looking at it, that's crucial.
What about the employees? So when you stepped in, one of your biggest concerns was, I'm going to lose employees. What did you do? What were the things that you and Stephanie did from day one to make sure that you retained the right people?
Sure. And I would say that's what I'm most proud of, is how we've handled all of our employees. Let's not kid ourselves. There's not a business without them. So Stephanie and I have done very little house cleaning since we bought this. The employees themselves do the work that is needed for the business. I don't think it's a magic formula. We started paying more, offering more to new employees. And, most importantly, more than money, is that we just treat people well. I know that everybody can say that. People in our lives hopefully would back that up, but we just try to treat everybody the way we would want to be treated. We try to be, very thoughtful towards what's going on in their lives, trying to make their experience with us as good as it can be. And yeah, I mean, we were told going into this business, and I've seen it all over the internet, that it is about a 3-month turnover for this business with house cleaning. And we have for sure blown that out of the water, and that's always going to be our motivation, is to be the place to work. If this is the type of work that you want to do in the Des Moines area, we're the best option, in my opinion. So.
And you've owned the company, just the Diamond House Cleaning. You've owned that just over a year.
Just over a year, October 21st, 2024.
And you've lost?
Well, we have 15 house cleaners right now. I would say we lost one who was with the company before we came on, and then maybe 2 or 3 that were on for a couple weeks, and they decided it wasn't what they wanted to do. But we have several. I mean, now we've been celebrating 1-year anniversaries with numerous cleaners. So some that had come on right before we bought it, and some that we had hired shortly after we started. And we always make a big deal of that. There's an anniversary bonus. It's a big deal to us. I was thrilled the first time someone hit their 1 year, because again, I mean, a lot of places that just doesn't happen.
So when you started, when did you think that you would basically start making money?
Well, of course, the hope was immediately, and it did. I mean, that's if you're buying a business that's existing and you're paying money for it, it should be making money right away. We only look at this in with a long-term perspective. So I wasn't super concerned if what it made right off the bat, and I wasn't super concerned about taking chances with utilizing the revenue in various ways that might not pay us what we were hoping to get in terms of like a monthly income from it. But yeah, it absolutely, there was profit right off the bat, and there continues to be, and it's our job to grow that through continuing to run the business in a good way.
So let's talk about next steps then. So when you acquired the company, obviously there wasn't much of a strategy in place from the previous owners, but what type of work did you do to come up with your strategy between you and Stephanie?
Yeah. So, I mean, the funny thing is I don't feel like I did a whole lot until recently in terms of worrying about money at all. I mean, right off the bat, my only concern was that, like I said earlier, that if somebody thought of us, that they thought of quality. So I would say the number one thing we did, aside from treating the employees well and paying them more, was giving them the instruction that it doesn't matter what the software is telling you as far as how long it should take to clean that particular house, or what it says that we're supposed to do at that house, just to do the absolute best job that you can, no matter how long it takes. That we'll worry about on the back end if we need to charge more money, or if the customer added something in person, said, oh, I know it's not on the list, but clean this. We instructed them to make it so that the customer is pleased, and that when they think of us, that they think that we're going to get the job done for them. If we need to charge money later on, increase their price, then great. People are open to that if you're doing a good job. And so, I mentioned that the employees have stayed, but the customers have stayed as well. So we steadily add people, but more importantly, we keep the huge majority of customers that we bring on. So.
And what's in the future for Diamond House Cleaning?
Yeah, so we're. I don't want to say too much as far as how I'll do it, because I have looked at what we can do in Iowa, and I think it's very possible to be in multiple locations. And tops on my list is to be in Iowa City and Cedar Rapids. I don't think it's come up yet, but we don't actually live in Des Moines, and I don't mind telling people that. We live about an hour and a half from Des Moines in Williamsburg. Go Raiders. And we're closer to Iowa City and Cedar Rapids. That's a huge market, just like Des Moines. And we feel like we can operate the same way that we do in Des Moines in that area and provide the service there. As far as Des Moines goes, just to continue to do a great job. And we're in a position where we can take on more customers, and we're happy to hire more people.
So in the beginning, when you reached out to me, you decided to work with me as your representative on the buy side.
Yes.
So why? I mean, and not necessarily by me, but I mean, why did you want to work with a broker on the buy side?
I'll start with why I wanted a broker, and then I'll add why it was you specifically, because I've been vocal about that as well. But it's a very difficult process. I mean, if you have not done this before, even with legal training, I just did not feel like I could navigate the entire process. It's a lot. Now, I'm sure there might be people that say, oh, I bought a business, I didn't use a broker, it was super easy. I don't know. I don't know. I'm thinking that maybe it was a simpler situation, might have been a friend or a relative, something like that. But there's a lot to go on to execute the documents, but also to know what you need to be asking a complete stranger. I did not know the seller at all. So I needed someone else who was unemotional about the situation, who had great analytical ability to say, hey, this is the info that we need to be seeing. Does it add up? Does it make sense? Is this worth doing? It was well worth the money, and I'm not just telling you that because you're here right in front of me. It was well worth the money, and that's why I'm here today, is I appreciate everything you've done for me. The reason I hired you, and I'm happy to say it, is, before we ever talked, I did talk to plenty of brokers, and it was very difficult to really have anybody show any interest in helping. I guess they look at it like they have the listing, so it'll eventually sell itself. But I was a motivated buyer. Without being awkward, I had funds from my prior business dealings that I wanted to put into buying a business. And I was really surprised that there wasn't much interest in helping me. But that was not the case with you. I'd actually talked to Mike, and then you reached out shortly after that and showed a very serious interest in trying to help me. And it was a no-brainer to contact you. When I heard about this deal, it was months before I'd reached out on BizBuySell. They came back after we had spoken, and I said, help me get this done. And you did. So
what would you think about selling your business to an employee?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think about that on every listing that I see, is that I'm surprised that it didn't happen, because an employee knows the business really well. There'd be no reason in most businesses that they couldn't step in and continue to at least operate it the same way. I would say the reason it doesn't happen often is because that an employee might not have the funds to do it. For everyone who thinks that, you've seen online that people will promote, I buy businesses with no money down, that I've yet to talk to a seller that was interested in that. So I think it's a smart move to sell it to an employee, but not to assume much, but a lot of times you would probably be carrying some seller financing, and a lot of sellers are interested in as much money down as possible. So that's my hunch why it doesn't happen more often. It's always great when you do hear about it, though. I mean, I think that's great, and I would do that in our situation. So, but we're not selling.
So you are you grew up in St. Louis,
Yes.
right? So you're kind of a Midwest guy, but tell me why you might. What are your thoughts on working with someone remotely versus working with somebody local?
Yeah, I know we've talked about this a lot, and yeah, it's kind of ridiculous that there are brokers from out of town selling businesses in Iowa. I'll just say that. So it's very strange to me that it happens. I don't understand how it gets to that point where you not interviewed somebody in Iowa who's familiar with your market, familiar with the potential buyers out there. I see it a lot if a franchise is for sale, and then I understand that because the franchise wants the same broker probably dealing with every resale. But I do not understand why a cleaning, it hasn't happened with the cleaning companies I've looked at, but why a cleaning company in Iowa would hire somebody out of town to sell the business. That would not make sense. It's rarely made sense from what I could tell when it happens in any industry, other than I understand with the franchises. So I think it's a mistake.
Where do you think that that your company, that your family company will be in 20 years? What are your plans for the future for Diamond House Cleaning?
Yeah. So not to be too audacious, but I would love to be in any major city in Iowa. So I'm not, I'm not looking to do that overnight. I think that's too much to do, but I think it can be done over that much of a time horizon. I would love it if my son wanted to take it over at that point. That would be great. Hopefully it's not too big of a mess if we are in every city. But, one thing that we did here in Des Moines, which wasn't done when we bought the business, is someone, in part, we didn't go out looking for it, but someone did, rise through the ranks and showed themselves to be just an amazing employee and someone who needed a bigger role. And she's now our manager. I think that, each time you go to another city, it's going to take time. You build up to that. But if you're able to promote someone to a managerial role, I think it's definitely doable. So it's not necessary. If you're a cleaning company, you can just be in a big market like Des Moines and make a good living. But we think we provide an excellent service, and we want to do it for as many people as possible. So it doesn't just have to be in Des Moines. We're happy to do it in anywhere where there are enough people. And, we're proud of the fact that we do service people in really tiny towns surrounding Des Moines. And so if we're in a big city like Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, there are much smaller places that probably aren't being thought of by cleaning companies. And we know we can fill those gaps the way we operate. Maybe not everybody can, but we'd be happy to really cover the map. I'd love that. I mean, again, it's first and foremost that we we love the service we provide. We love doing this. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, I believe that Iowa produces or presents unique challenges
yeah,
because of the geography.
yeah, unique opportunities.
Absolutely. Unique opportunities.
Yeah.
Did we miss anything?
Probably. I mean, you and I usually talk a lot longer than this, so yeah, we could talk all day. If you think anything else you want to ask me, I try to be an open book, but I just want to again say thank you for everything. I'm not just saying that because we're on this podcast together. I mean, it was we were in a situation where we really, really wanted an opportunity like what we got, and I don't think it would have gotten there without you. So, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Of course.